welcome to the Womxn Show. I'm Lenina Rasool, and today we have some very special guests in studio. We will be speaking to some pupils from Bonteheuwel High School who are part of the I Define Me program produced by InsideOut. So after the break, we'll be in conversation with Judith Kennedy, who is a co-founder of InsideOut, an organization that has been running a program called I Define Me, working with young girls at the Bonteheuwel High School to empower them with confidence, with voice, and to make better choices. Before that, we're going to have a look at a short video where some of the girls who are part of the program introduce themselves. Let's have a look.
My name is Tamlin Phyllis, and I am 16 years old, and I'm part of the InsideOut I Define Me Girls program at Bonteheuwel High.
Hello, my name is Evelyn Phillips, and I am part of the I Define Me group, and I think Bonteheuwel High School.
My name is Riley Angus, and I am a part of the InsideOut I Define Me program.
Like since the first session, it was just something that helped me, and honestly, I can't even explain. It's been a big help to me.
I've learned how I can build myself up, how I can start trusting myself more, loving myself more, believing myself more, not doubting myself anymore.
What I've learned in this program is that you need to be confident and believe in yourself.
I could talk about whatever was bothering me, and the topics like the stages of depression, things like that. It really opened my eyes and made me aware of things oh, this is what that was. I was feeling this way and I didn't even know it.
I've also learned how to grow my self-confidence, and now I know how to communicate with people. I didn't know how to do that before, but now I do.
I have made a very, very big self-discovery journey with them, how I could empower other girls around me and how I could change the circumstances around me. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Those were introductions by some of the girls who are part of the I Define Me program by InsideOut. We are going to take a short break, but we'll be back with more after this. Welcome back. You're still watching the Womxn Show, and I am so excited to have some special guests in studio today. I was telling them before the show that they are the first, I think, under 18 young women on the Womxn Show in our full range of existence. And so today we are speaking about what life looks like for young women in honor of June month. And joining us in studio is, I'm going to start with Judith Kennedy, who is the co-founder of an organization called InsideOut, who have been running a program with young girls at the Bonteheuwel High School. And so today we've also got two young pupils joining us from Bonteheuwel High School. We have Tamlin Phyllis over there and Afton Phillips. And so welcome, ladies, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
So, Judy, I'm going to start with you just to kick us off and to tell us about the wonderful I Define Me program. And I just want to do a disclaimer for the audience that I also came in for a few sessions and I did some journalism and some other discussions with the young women. So just so you know, I've also sort of been there. But Judy, tell us about I Define Me.
So I Define Me this is the third I Define Me process that we're running. The first one was with a different organization, and that program ran over 3 years, and it was an international program between South Africa, the UK, and Colombia. When that project came to an end, we decided that we need to continue this kind of work, working with young girls, and we need to like I say, continue, but also broaden the program. We then, at that point, we started InsideOut, and the I Define Me program was our first program as InsideOut, and that happened in two communities, in Mitchell's Plain, Beacon Valley, and Bonteheuwel. And there we engaged around, in the whole program, we probably worked with over 160 people. That includes young girls and their parents and the other family members in the program. This year, the program is running on Bonteheuwel High School in Bonteheuwel. It's a one-year program that has now just been extended by another year. And the program looks at three components. The first component is what we call personal development. And it's not the kind of superficial personal development that happens. The questions are, who am I and who am I in relation to others? And also, where do I come from? You know, where does my parents come from? So there's lots of kind of in-depth conversations about that. The second component is what we call the world we live in. That talks about, so if we, you know, how did we get to Bonteheuwel? Why do we live under these conditions? Why is there a difference between Bonteheuwel and Bishop's Court, for an example? It's also about excursions and exploring what else is going on in the city, and you know, how does all of those things impact us? And then the third component is organizing. So we know a little bit more about ourselves as young girls. We know a little bit more about the world around us. And we know what some of the challenges are. So now, in the organizing component, what is it that we're going to do about those things? And that's kind of the three components of the work with the girls. Then, as part of that, we also have a program for the parents. And that is a learning and sharing space for parents, really, to come and talk about what are the challenges that they have in raising young girls. And this program is open to anyone in the community. It's not just for the parents of the girls in the program, but it's really open. And when we say parents, we mean men and women, fathers and mothers, there where they are, guardians. And that program also gives the parents an opportunity to talk about their own issues. So part of it is we'll talk about the girls and the kind of behavior that we see, because the program challenges behavior. And girls in the program tend to find their voice. And when they find their voice, the first place they want to practice that voice is in the home.
Yes.
So it's important for us to explain to parents what is happening in the program, so that they know how to handle and deal with the girls when they're at home and they now have this voice and they now want to exert and speak.
Can I just say, all I'm thinking about is like back chatting.
Yes, you know.
Right.
Yeah, and so, but it also allows for parents to come and talk about their own issues, stuff that they are struggling with as adults, not necessarily as parents of the girls. So by doing that, we're creating an environment where there's also, teachers are also welcome in that space. And we're trying to create an environment where the girls can feel supported in the program, at home and at school. Doesn't always work out the way we want to, but that is the kind of things that we're striving to do. So it is about communication, it is about critical consciousness, it is about self-esteem, it is about the issues really that they want to talk about. We have kind of a broad idea of where the program needs to go and what we need to do, but really the goals determine the conversation in the group. Yeah.
I love that. And so that is, again, we're looking at very bottom up, and we're looking at, we're not trying to tell you what to think, and we're not trying to tell you how to behave, but rather, you know, what is your lived experience and context, and how do we move from there? Which I know is a principle of how InsideOut works around lived experience and mental health and processing all of that. So thank you. I want to move to our guests of honor, actually. So I think we want to start with introductions. And so maybe, Afton, if you want to go first, and then Tamlin.
So my name is Afton Phillips. I'm a learner at Bonteheuwel High, and I'm grade 11. So, yeah.
And you're part of the
yeah.
I Define Me program.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Tamlin Lee Phyllis, and I'm also grade 11 at Bonteheuwel High School, and I'm a part of the I Define Me program.
Okay, well, I mean, thank you so much for being so brave to come on here, because I was telling them before the episode, before we started shooting, that sometimes it takes days to convince adult women just to come behind the camera, and you guys are like here already. I want to start off with just asking your opinion or question around I think your lived experience. So Judy, you were saying really interesting things like, who am I in relation to other people, was one of the things that you learned through the program. And so I wanted to ask, when we think about young women and we think about the way that you exist in the world, what are some of the challenges? And I know challenges is often like a broad question. So I want to ask, what are some of the challenges that you would say young women face that are different to what boys face, for example, or even what adults face? What feels a unique challenge?
So for me, like in my house, it would be for the girl, it's more like clean and like, do your chores and then you can go do whatever else there is to do. But with the boys, it's just, you're there to enjoy yourself, basically.
That's a good one. I have two younger brothers, so.
So the challenge for me is to make my voice heard in my household, as I am the youngest girl in the house. I have two older brothers, so when there's an argument, I'd be the one to be silenced, and my opinion or my feelings would not be expressed because I am learned to be submissive under my brothers. As women, we're often taught to be submissive under men, and that we do not have the right to express how we feel, because that is just how women should be. You should do this and that, and the men, they go out and provide. So that's how I feel.
Those are really, really good answers. I have to say, just the other day, I was thinking about when I was young and also growing up with two brothers. And I just thought, they never ever made a cup of tea when someone came to the house. Like, but even today, because my mom stays with me, she will never ask one of them to make Auntie so-and-so a cup of tea, like when they come to visit. And so that's like really interesting for me. I want to ask, just to follow on from that. So we're speaking about sort of not having voice, and not being able to voice our own opinions, and also what we want to do. I think that is. So, what kind of things have you learned through the program about voice?
Your voice is actually very important as a woman, because without women, men wouldn't be able to function, as we are the birth givers, we are the nurturers, we are the caregivers as well. So we do have the right to express how we feel, because we are the seed, we are the producers.
And we are human beings also,
Yeah,
right?
we are
We're all that's what we're
do have
striving
that
for.
right, yeah.
Equal human beings, equal right to speak. Devlin?
The program taught me about my voice is that it's important that I speak up, like what I'm feeling, because like if I don't, then changes can't happen if I don't like start something. So if I don't say I'm feeling this way and this is hurting me, then nothing can happen. So yeah.
Can I ask you guys, so when I think about, the Women Show is based on really providing a platform for women to come on so that they can use their voice. Because even in the media sector, we will find more men are quoted or interviewed, etc., than women. And so it seems like we coming into where there's a system where men already have more of the visibility and more of the platforms for voice than women have. And so that's why we wanted to start the show, because we wanted to speak about these issues. What are some of the ways do you think that girls are, we're speaking specifically about girls, that girls are silenced. Like, why is it so difficult for girls to use their voice? Or what, or even like before the program, like there must have been, when you're coming in and you're realizing, so for me, I will tell you, because I had those issues, I was like very scared to speak up. I was very nervous when I was young, and I was afraid that if I spoke about myself or I named something that was wrong, I was afraid no one would care, or there would be consequences, or like, what are some of the ways before that you were afraid, and maybe sometimes still, because you don't just stop being afraid, right? Yeah. What are some of the things that we're afraid of that if we say the thing?
For me, it would be I'd be scared to be treated differently for speaking up, as it would seem disrespectful, only for just standing up for yourself. Demi? Oh, you just pointed me out. It's the same for me also, because like, I don't, if I say something, like, and then all of a sudden there's a change, but then it doesn't last. So you just did that because I said this. So it, like, you don't really care. So are you actually listening to what I'm saying? Or is it just an act? Like, for me, I feel like that.
How do we feel about, I'm going to use this, unfairness? So we're speaking a lot about like our situations in relation to having brothers. But also you could say in class, your situation in relation to boys and consequences, or in the community. Are girls held back held back? One of the words we use also is policed. Our behavior is policed more than boys' behaviors are policed. I'll give you an example. Boys can wear whatever they want. I had a whole conversation with a group in Lavender Hill once where they were, we started out, they thought it was just not okay for girls to go to the shop in their gown, right? But I'm like, I grew up watching men in their boxer shorts and a sweater, which they slept in going to the shop, and that's okay. So why? Are there some ways that you think girls are policed more than boys?
For me, it's definitely like my brother. I'm using him as an example. Like, he's outside a lot, so like that's kind of fine. But then you look at my little sister, and it's not okay for her because she's a girl and she's younger. So maybe like that also.
So for me, curfew was also a big thing. I couldn't understand how my younger brothers could be out later than me when I was the older one. Afton, you got any examples?
Same, I remember back in primary school, I'd oftenly be at my grandma's house, and everyone would play outside, all the boys and all the girls. But not all of the girls, unfortunately, the Tom girls. And then my grandma, she would hold me back. I would stand at the gate and watch the kids. So I was held back. I couldn't go outside. I had to stand at the gate, as I said, because the boys, they were wild. They could wear whatever they want. I remember once that this girl, she walked by and they hit her. She had a shorts on and they hit her like that. And my mom said, you see why I don't let you go out? Because of that. You see why? And then she got the blame for wearing that short shorts. And like, Ma, but it's not her fault. He should have kept his hands to himself. And Ma was like, no, she should have been inside, not wearing that. And I'm like, but Ma, it's wrong. She can wear what she wants. The guy should have just kept his hands to himself. So I just feel that it is wrong because girls should wear whatever they want.
Is that a difficult space to occupy right now? Because I'm finding especially, I'm sure you hear a lot of people say, there was no social media when we were young, right? We grew up without Facebook and Instagram, which is the truth, but we had TV at least. But this thing of dressing, it's also, I mean, being a young woman right now, there's so much pressure to look a certain way. The environment is extremely, and it was when we were young also, it's extremely sexualized. I often am thinking about kind of the stuff we see on TV. So even my favorite people, even Beyonce and all of them, just like also, if I try and show those videos to my daughter, I'm like, they're wearing fishnet stockings and they, Is that a difficult space to occupy, being a young woman and thinking about the way that you have to dress, or forced to dress, or not allowed to dress?
I'm gonna pause on this question.
So you're gonna pass? That's fine.
I think it is the way we are forced to dress because we can't dress as we want to, as there are men out there who would be taking it in the wrong context. We would be harassed. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
This is too deep.
It is a deep one. We need a whole episode just to talk about clothing, perhaps. We've got 2 minutes left, so Judy, I just want to come in and, is it just on that question, whether you have anything to add, that insights that maybe came up that they can't think about right now,
In terms of dress and clothing,
and girls being policed.
yeah, I think being policed, I don't think there's, or young girls maybe have the vocabulary or the
Okay, let me ask you a quick question.
Okay.
Is it something that comes up with parents? Sometimes.
yes, I think yes, parents will say, don't wear that, it's too short. We're going to church, you can't wear pants, you must wear a dress, that kind of thing. So policing is not, it's not just from, I think it predominantly comes from parents in terms of policing. But I mean, we understand where parents come from when they want to police how young girls dress.
And protect them, right? Because essentially, I mean, police
from-
is a strong
yes,
word, but
yes.
it's really just like
But it's
telling
about-
you what
It's
to
also
wear.
about, like you say, protection, because we must remember parents have experienced the world out there.
Yeah.
And parents operate from where they are and their own experiences. And they don't necessarily want their daughters to go through similar experiences.
No, I get it, and I think
And so-
Afton hit the nail on the head when
Yeah.
she said it is not even you; it's the
Yeah.
way that you will be
Yeah.
perceived by people out there,
Yeah.
predominantly men, and let's also say predominantly grown men.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of this segment. Afton and Tamlin will be leaving us, and we'll be joined by 2 other learners after the break. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
So we are going to take a short break, and we'll be back with more after this. Welcome back. You're still watching The Womxn Show, and as you've seen before the break, we are having a very special show episode for June, which is Youth Month, and we are focusing on young women and girls. And joining me now in studio are 2 other young women from Bonteheuwel High School who are part of the I Define Me program by InsideOut. And just before we do introductions, the the I Define Me program is being done with young women at Bonteheuwel High School by the organization Inside Out. And I just want to recap some of the stuff that Judy told us. So working with young girls, looking at personal development, who am I in relation to others, where do I come from, where do my parents come from, they look at the world we live in, how did we get to Bonteheuwel, why is Bonteheuwel different from Bishop's Court, and then also there's an organizing component, so that now that the girls know more about themselves and their lived experience and where they are in the world, what are they going to do about it. And still with us in studio is Judith Kennedy, who is the co-founder of Inside Out, and then we also have these lovely 2 young women, Kaltuma Davids and Riley Andrews. And before the break, we had grade 11 students. These are grade 9 students, and in my head, I still have to convert and say standard 7. But welcome, and thank you for joining us. So, Judy, I wanted to come to you quickly and start with you again and just ask you, why is it that why is it so important to work with girls specifically?
For us, it's very important to work with girls, but it's equally important to work with boys as well. Our focus for now is working with girls. I think there's a lot of work being done with women, and not a lot of work done with girls. And if we can start doing the work with girls earlier, because the work, and particularly with girls, it is about finding voice. It is about getting girls to think outside of the traditional thinking. It's about how do we broaden the horizons of young girls so that when it comes time for them to choose and make big decisions in their life, that they have the tools to make those decisions in the interest of themselves and not necessarily in the interest of everybody else besides themselves. Because that's what we tend to, if we look at women today, that's what we tend to do. We make decisions so that everybody else can be okay, but we're not taking care of ourselves and we're not doing things in our own interest. And so part of the working with girls is broadening the horizons, building the confidence and the self-esteem, but also building, I think the critical consciousness is a big thing, being able to look at something and interrogate it from all sides and then be able to make a decision in their best interest. I think there's such a lot of, I mean, we all know the kind of gender-based violence numbers. Part of the project is also to how do we empower young girls to be able to look out for red flags, look out for not just in relationships with boys and guys, but just generally in all your relationships. How do you look out for red flags? How do you choose who is my friend? How do you choose who has a good influence or someone that can help me further my hopes and my dreams and my aspirations? So a lot of that is about knowing the self, and they are very young. And so, but still, there's a lot for them to know about themselves. And I think the earlier we start having these conversations with girls, when they grow up, the conversations will always be with them. It might not, and I think this is general in youth work, when you work with young people, you can do something today, but the penny only drops like 2-3 years later.
I find that happening with myself, even now, all the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, with me also. And I think the assumption that people make is that when young girls or young people are in a program, that they must immediately, get everything that is now done in the program. That's not what we're doing. For us, it's about how do we plant the seeds of all the content that we're doing, so that it can later on in your life, you get triggered by something and you remember, oh, but this thing, and now that makes sense. And so it is about how do we build young people and young girls particularly to be strong, independent, critically thinking young women.
So I really love that you said that, because I think it's so important to sort of verbalize with these programs where people are looking for immediate results, that actually it's a process, and there's a process of testing, and there's a process of figuring, like trying the stuff that I define me teaches, and then seeing which parts work for me, which part, because nothing is like applies to everybody. Okay, I just want to start with introductions. Kaltuma, maybe you can go first, and then Riley.
Okay, my name is Kaltuma Davids. I attend Bonteheuwel High School. I'm grade 9 and I'm part of the I Define Me group.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Riley Andrews and I attend Bonteheuwel High School, grade 9, and I am a part of the I Define Me program.
Thank you so much. And thank you guys for joining us, for being brave enough to come on here. I think I want to start by just asking, this is a broad question, so you can pass if you want to, but what is it like being a young girl these days? And I said before the break, I know you guys were listening in, that to me, when I look at it, it seems in some ways very similar, but also a lot more complicated, because there is a lot more media, a lot more social media, a lot of emphasis. I think when I look at Instagram and stuff, a lot of emphasis on physical appearance and how you look. And my 10-year-old is asking me to buy her face care and roller things. And is that a difficult space to sort of operate in?
Some people have like an influence on the teenagers these days.
Mm, mm.
And some is good, some is bad, which I think that's enough.
Riley, do you feel like pressure, or do you see girls feeling pressure to look a certain way or to do certain things because of, you spoke about influence, because of, what they're seeing?
I definitely do, because like me as well, I see like some girls, they don't have pupils, they don't have this, they don't have that. So I try to, like, you see your daughter said you must buy you must buy this roller thingy and Christmas. I tell my mom that every time. Because my face should be clear like other girls. I should look a certain way and all those things. So yeah.
Does it make you feel sometimes stressful not to look like, I'm going to say for me, because I know for even our age and whatever, it's just for women historically, let me tell you why women are so nervous to come onto TV. We found that even if they are like experts and they have degrees and we want to bring someone on to speak about politics, like smart, often they're more afraid of how they look on TV than what they're going to say. And I found when you look at research, it's because it doesn't matter how smart you sound, a woman sounds, on social media, you will find they will criticize how you look. So that's what I was saying. Like, does it give you anxiety sometimes? Is that something that sometimes you'll stress about? Is like I did, and I used to get so irritated because how you look doesn't determine who you are. But is that the thing that you see girls worry about?
Definitely. Most of the time.
Fatima? Not so much in your network.
And me for me.
Love it. Okay, I want to come to the I Define Me program. You guys have been part of it for how long now, Judy?
Ask them for the year. I think both
For
of
the
them
year
are,
so far?
yeah, since the beginning.
Okay, what are
They
some
were
of
in
the
program.
what are some of the really great stuff? Like, do you think there was anything that you learned that really helped you to shift to a different level of thinking or a different level of sense of self ownership?
The InsideOut, like I can say, is the InsideOut actually the program that helped me boost my confidence. Like I was never able to like actually put myself out there, like be confident. I would always be actually like it's fine. You go wherever you can go, ma. Something like that.
What about you, Riley? I got TV, right?
Like how Thomas said, it boosted our confidence a lot and our voice as women. We should speak out more. And I never thought that I would be on TV, but now I am.
Yeah, and you guys are doing so well. Oh my goodness, you are so confident. What are some of the main challenges? So you are. See, my brain wants to say grade 7. You grade 9, which to me is still at 7. You are grade 9. What are some of the main challenges that you see girls navigating at that age, like across the board? Like, are there particularly difficult things in the community? Are there any difficult things at school? Are there anything? I think I used the example with the other girls before the break. Anything that you see that's unique that you're dealing with that are different to possibly something boys are dealing with or that adults are dealing with? Pass? Okay, that one's not relevant. One of the things we spoke about, so the Womxn Show also, it's about providing a platform for women to speak. One of the things we speak about often, and actually what the show is conceptualized around, is gender-based violence. And so one of the things I often ask when social workers come onto the show is like, we know that all of this gender-based violence is happening, and there's reports of that also in the news and in the newspaper and stuff, on social media. What are your thoughts around gender-based violence? And I always ask the social workers, like, how does, even if it doesn't happen to you, if it's happening and it's happening to other people in the community, other young girls in the community, or children or adults, what are your thoughts around that?
I basically think it's wrong because we shouldn't be treated like that. We're all human. We shouldn't treat each other that way. And
When you reach high school, when you cross over into high school, one of the often things, I mean, I'm not going to have the whole conversation about how people's bodies, how girls' bodies change and stuff, but that happens, Often you become older and you start to attract a little bit more attention. Now, when I was there speaking about sort of journalism in the class, one of the issues that was raised is girls were worried about your movement becomes more restricted because now there's always people, sometimes older men, sometimes boys, standing around. They start to make comments. They start to look at your body. I mean, that's just what happens. They start to look at your body. They start to make comments. And that's something that I also experience. That's not something I think we all experience. I mean, I used to take, even when I was studying, I used to take the taxi, so you walk into spaces where there are like lots of men. Is that something that becomes a factor as you enter high school? And is that something that you feel you have to worry about sometimes when you're walking around, when you're moving around in spaces?
I don't think actually, because like, say I'll take it from my perspective. When I'm walking around, I don't expect like maybe a boy or a man to look at me. Because I'll look back at you and I'll be like, why are you looking at me? I do that. I'll be like, is there something wrong with me? Then most of the time when I walk in the mall, then I'll look, and I walk in my own mind space and I get people to look at me. I'm like, what did I do to you? What happened?
I love that. I love that you were I was not empowered that way when I was younger. I was extremely self-conscious when I was walking. And I was, I think, also possibly afraid, depending on who was standing there and the type of comments that were being made. Riley, is that something that sort of comes up, or that you even see? So none of the questions I'm asking is specifically, did it happen to you, or do you experience it? Because it's also, as you hear, you're representative of a demographic of young girls that really get a platform. Is that something that you find girls become afraid of, or girls become more noticeable?
Yes, definitely, because like, as girls, we will be walking to the shop and boys will be standing on the corner and saying things that they shouldn't be saying. Like Afton said, they want to touch and all that when they shouldn't. On school as well, for me now, I feel like I should wear certain things. Like I don't like to wear dresses because they be looking. So yeah.
It's a difficult space I find it's a difficult space for women and girls, but for girls, let's say girls specifically. Girls always get blamed. Let's say you get touched or a boy shows you attention. They never tell the boy, they hardly ever will tell the boy to leave the girl alone or they get reprimanded. It's always like, don't wear skirts because you have to like protect yourself from them as opposed to them changing their behavior. How do you feel about that? Do you think it's unfair?
It's very unfair to me because, like Afton said, we should wear what we want to wear because we are able to. It's our body. We should do what we want to.
Does that make it difficult to... I'm trying to phrase this question correctly. Does that make it difficult to talk about this type of thing? So, for example, I'm thinking of a scenario where you want to tell an adult, these people keep bothering me, and you're afraid that they're going to say, oh, yeah, well, you mustn't dress that way, or you mustn't invite the comments. Is that sort of a feeling that sometimes, and this just goes back to like how girls are always blamed for it, like you're doing something wrong to attract their attention. Do you feel like like that happens?
Always. Because you already know that they're going to say it's because of the way you dress, the way you give them attention and all that.
I just wanted to come back to an earlier question around commentary from men and boys and all of that kinds of stuff. I mean, we would be at the session early, wait for the school to be dismissed, and as the school is dismissed, there would be a gang fight in the road. Young girls, not just on their school or in Bonteheuwel, but I think generally have to, because of gang violence in different communities, have to navigate how they walk to school, when they walk to school. Is it even safe to go to school today? And so I think those are the things that people don't generally see. I don't know. People don't realize that besides all the other stuff we've been talking about now, the safety of young girls and young boys, I suppose, but we're talking about young girls now. And they live like, 2 minutes from the school, just around the corner from the school.
Yeah.
But they have to come out of the gate and decide, must I go the long way around to school, or can I go to school this way? If I go this way, I think about who's going to be on the corner, am I going to be harassed, all of those kinds of things. So I think navigating that space, navigating those kinds of spaces every day, and for me the problem is it has become so normal to do that. Because, I mean, why? Why can't we just walk from our home to school?
No, I get it.
Why must we now think of all these other things before we even step out of the door to go to school? In what state of mind do you get to school?
Yeah. Sorry, Judy, we're actually out of time, but I do get it. Even as a person, I will say, once I encountered a security guard at my corner shop. I'm talking about now where I am. And this guy, just like every time I came, he was just like, oh, will you be my girlfriend? Oh, I like you. Where do you live? And so I drove the long way and went to the other shop for like 6 months, and I couldn't understand. I'm an adult. Like, why can't I just tell the manager? But we are out of time. So I just want to say thank you so very, very, very much for being brave enough to come into the show, for sharing your thoughts, and I wish you best for the rest of the year and for the Identify Me program.
Thank you for having us once again.
It is a pleasure. We are going to take a short break, but we'll be back with more after this. Welcome back. You're still watching The Womxn Show, and we've been having some great conversations with young girls from Bonteheuwel High School about the program Identify Me by the organization InsideOut. Now, the organization InsideOut does a lot of amazing work, and not just with young girls at high schools. They also do mental health and trauma processing programs in communities, and they work with men and mental health. So we're going to have a look at a short video that just speaks to some of the other work they do to give us a better understanding of that. Let's have a look.
Healing never stops. And if you have had multiple experiences of woundedness, you need multiple processes of healing. You can't have one process for healing. It's not a blanket approach.
It is about being able to, irrespective of what happened to you, being able to go forward in life, taking the lessons and leaving the pain. So healing is not one thing, it's many things. And you can use many tools. This weekend we're using the wilderness as a tool for healing, to kickstart people's journeys. I mean, it's not as if this is also a kickstart, because a lot of people here has already started their journeys, their healing journeys. They've recognized that they need to heal. And once you recognize that, that's when your journey starts. Because no two people's journey is the same. The tools that work for me might not work for you, you know. And so the idea is, how do we share as many tools as possible so that people have the opportunity and the tools to go on this journey.
And so the healing concept, or collective healing, or healing in the wilderness as a therapeutic space, nature as a way of working with you where you are, even in the collective space. Wilderness as a way of equalizing what has been abnormal, and to bring it to, to show you that the thing that you thought was right has messed you up, psychologically, physically, mentally, spiritually. In South Africa, we come from a particular background where everyone has been scarred, everyone has been hurt, everyone is wounded, and the woundedness plays out very differently in everyone's life, depending on the lived experience. And because we are a wounded nation, we need to heal collectively. And healing collectively doesn't exclude individuals healing. But if you want to heal as an individual, no one can keep you accountable to the process.
So for me, healing means that I get an opportunity to look at myself again, to address issues that haven't been addressed before. Healing means growth. So I get an opportunity to evolve and to come out a better person.
So yeah, our weekend has come to a close. There has been a lot of personal insight that I've experienced over this past few days. I think the setting of being in a wild space, amongst and surrounded, held by the mountains, impacted my ability to go deeper.
That was a short video looking at some of the other work that InsideOut does. And that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you for joining us. I hope that you found this episode useful, especially hearing the voices of very young girls and the challenges that they are facing, and that we can all find ways to empower the young women in our communities to help them make better choices, to empower them, and to provide space for them to use their voice. And so that's all we have. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lenina Rasool. Goodbye.